Heyo, duckies and dice fiends! Welcome back. It is Tuesday. That means it is time for the Table Talk Show. And as some of y'all might see, Matt, I've got something new that's running for our subtitles. Hey, Lurking Writer, welcome in. And here's the cool thing, Matt. This is running locally out of my OBS. And David, say a thing.
Hi, I'm saying a thing. I had a rant and I completely forgot it.
Oh, good job. Good job. This is pulling from two separate audio sources and doing live captions within OBS. I am very happy.
Look, usually we get in green room before we do a thing, half an hour before, and then if it's something involving other people, like we have a guest or we're doing a streamed game, Kay and I will get on earlier. Kay has been last hour trying to get that thing to fucking work and has worked on it before today.
Yes. Hey, Rex. Okay, DC, it is a thing called Local Vocal. You download it from GitHub. Local Vocal, you install it to whatever you have on your computer. It is a filter that goes onto your audio sources.
Oh, that's a brilliant way to do it.
Yes, it is so happy. And then it feeds all the incoming audio into the same text box, and it automatically installs the text box on OBS, and you just adjust it.
It's called Moral Oral, and you find it on Adult Swim. No, Local Vocal.
And I am still figuring out how to adjust some things. I would like... Blank audio, that's good. I am still figuring out how to adjust some things. Like I would like some of the captions to stay on the screen longer. But it is certainly better than trying to juggle 6 people with caption links that break and...
Yeah.
Not always. I, again, need to dig around with it more. I literally just installed it and went, will this even work with 2 audio sources? There are ways to make it come up faster, and I might actually go back in the settings so that it'll live caption faster, which will be a little less accurate, so that's what I'm going to be playing with. But yes, Local Vocal, I do not remember the name, but Urban Bohemian Brian tweeted a thing about, like, make this accessible, and someone replied to their tweet and was like, this is my trick. And I'm like, wait, what is this magic? Does this still work? And it does. And I'm so happy with it. Yay! Yeah, because I've had the captions experimental that's like built, that's the plugin in OBS for a while, but it will only pull from a single audio source. It will only pull from my microphone. That will not pull from, you know, a Zoom or multiple sources, which makes it very difficult. There is a way I was messing with for a while where you could take my microphone and the Zoom and put it all into one virtual cable and then tell the captions to pull from that virtual cable. That. But then the virtual cable started frying my machine, and like, so far we're testing this. If I can just get the captions to stay on screen a little bit longer, I will be very happy with it. But yes, hi, I'm Kay. I am one half of Chaotic Wholesome. This is the Table Talk Show where we talk about all things TTRPGs from indies to intersectionality, including accessibility and how to get dope live captions so that your stream can be more accessible and you can just be a considerate and a better person. I just stole a lot of what you say, David. But David, who the heck is you and what the heck is we doing here?
Hi, I'm DC Lasser and welcome to Tech Friday. No. Also, if you have not seen Tech Friday, check out Tech Friday.
Go check out Tech Friday.
I am sad that I have missed as many episodes as I have, but please go check out Tech Friday because I have learned a bunch of stuff, including stuff I will never ever use. However, you see, this is why I get mad, and I understand I'm going on a rant, but this is why I get mad about people who are like, oh man, why do I have to read a book and figure out what the author is trying to say in high school? It's like, so that you can practice taking 2 separate things and sticking them together and forming a new thought. That's called critical thinking. All of your literature and art and humanities classes in grade school, high school, and college teach you how to think critically. And if anything, that politics over the past 15 years, and I'd argue over the past 40 years, have taught us, is that critical thinking is essential to just not just an informed populace, but for the forward advancement of humanity. But anyway, hi, I'm David. This is the Chaotic Wholesome Tuesday Table Talk Show, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to install new plugins and captions, how to be a better person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
Yes, the pun did not interrupt the rant. David was locked in, was not going to put up with my BS. So, I don't know if any of y'all got here early and looked at our little advertisement crawl. There's two quick things I want to plug before we dive into the actual meat and potatoes of this show. I'm so paranoid that the captions have stopped working. But it's sometimes when I just get going, it just takes a minute and I have to be like, don't stop. They're going to come.
No!
Things I just said with my face. Hey, Zycram. I picked a very bad place to pause there. So, yes, such phrasing, like, of course, the ace. Oh, thank you, Matt. Thank you. That is, as the car alarm goes off. Car alarm's like, that's the regret alarm in my head right now. But Thursday, we have an incredible game that's going to be right here on Chaotic Wholesome. This is The Quest for the Holy Tale. This is going to be run by GM Candace the Magnificent. This is a charity game benefiting DOTS, which are D&D dice that have pips and are accessible for those who are visually impaired. They are Braille dice, and they are very, very awesome. And we would love if you would come by and support us. And look at this heckin' cast, y'all. We got Robin of Frequencies and the Starfinder game that I am drawing a complete and utter blank on right now. And I'm so angry about that. Patchwork Productions. Robin of Patchwork Productions. There we are. This is the second time in like 2 days. Yeah, this one no longer in play, but most people know them from that. We have Candace the Magnificent, who, like, if you don't know Candace the Magnificent, the newest of the three Black Halflings. We have Kai of Transplanar fame. We have Zach. We have Calamity, who, if you have not had the pleasure of having a Calamity in your life, you're missing out. And Kappa, the truly incredible Kappa. Come by. Don't go. Come here Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Later, hold on, I can do this math. I know this math. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1 a.m. in UK time, in BST.
Listen, if you're in the UK, just don't sleep at night. You're not allowed to sleep at night. You got to be awake all night to watch our stuff. The end.
Yes. And thank you for reposting, Lurking Writer. We are so excited. I am also, this is a shout out of there is going to be a Kickstarter later, but this is a shout out to those of y'all going to Gen Con. I have a quest for you. I need y'all, come on, to go check out Slaughter Night. If you like slasher film, like 90s slasher, classic slashers, this is a tabletop game made by my favorite GM, who runs the home game that I have been part of for going on 4 years now. It is a semi-cooperative tabletop where you play as killers. I got to help playtest this while I was in England. It is ridiculously fun. This is the early playtest. There are more killers and more survivors coming. But you basically there's 2 killers in a house with 4 teens, and it is your job to try and kill them all and do so in the flashiest way possible. Because as killers, you have special moves that get you thriller points, and whoever has the most thriller points at the end of the game wins. It's ridiculously fun. Ben, my GM, is going to be at Gen Con. Go say hey. They are in the First Exposure Playtest Hall, and it is Resurrectionist Games. So go check it out, because that's one of my favorite people. Can't spell Slaughter Knight without Unite. Right? Exactly. So that is my pitching. We've been on the air for 15 minutes talking about plugins and stuff that we are promoting. And now we can finally get onto the thing. As soon as David is back, like, David's internet has been grumpy recently because, of course, it wants to be grumpy while David is on the air.
I specifically restarted the router and restarted my computer before I sat in front of this goddamn computer. And here we are. I gotta go to AT&T anyway for other reasons, but apparently I'm going to fucking badger them into getting me a new router because I need this for work.
Yes. So, plugs and plugins. Exactly. Well said. Well said. So,
I mean, I know Kay's not wearing a plug, and I plead the fifth.
I'll never tell. Oh, all I can think about is that TikTok you sent me shortly before we went live. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, railroading. Speaking of fun phrasing, railroading, right. David. Railroading. We all do it as GMs.
Yes.
The real trick is to make sure the players don't know. Latest another plugin, but definitely not relevant. Oh, yes. Ooh, I know that pressure is very bad for your brain. I hope you feel better soon, Lurking Writer. Railroad.
Now I'm thinking about
players don't
Blade plugin in the wall. And for some reason that made me think of the clap on, clap off thing.
Plug it in, plug it in.
Right. Because like in the 80s, the coolest commercial on TV was the clapper, which phrasing again.
Clap on.
Right. And I remember really wanting that thing. And like the second I turned like 12, I was like, this is the stupidest thing in the world. Like, just turn off the light, my guy. Anyway, railroading. We're back on topic.
I'm railroading you back on topic.
Yes. So like, I think first we should cover why people complain about railroading, why people perceive it as a bad thing. And it all comes down to player agency. Like I've referenced more than once about a horror story from the internet about a guy who's like, ah, man, I created this whole world. I created this whole storyline. I get my players in, and they're doing exactly the wrong thing. And it's like, I don't know, man. Maybe they read a book. Like if you want your players to just follow step by step, beat by beat, whatever thing that you have planned, then write a book. And it's probably going to be a bad book, but go write it anyway. Because guess what? Bad books not only get published, but people read them.
Also, just creating in this day and age is an act of defiance, and go do it.
Yeah.
Just create.
An act of resistance is creating art. And a whole nother conversation that...
The captions got your sigh. It literally did asterisk sigh.
Wow. Noted. And a whole nother conversation is art doesn't have to necessarily be entertaining. Like you can watch something or see something or read something and be like disgusted and made to feel awful, and that's art doing its job. Like if art doesn't purely entertain you, that doesn't mean art is bad. Like I don't know anybody who had a good time reading Lolita. I certainly didn't have a good time. But and then like Lolita the book is a whole other discussion which we're not going to go into.
Yeah, nope. Not
Especially
with the Twitch
given
DOS.
the current, not with the Twitch DOS, not with the current political climate, not with like anything. But yeah, go and create art. And you know what? I say that I've said this to my clients for like 15 years now. If you get to the point where you type the end, whether it is a screenplay, a book, a short story, a poem, a TikTok reel, a YouTube short, a whole YouTube video, a full ass movie, doesn't matter. If you get to the point where you say the end, then that means that you are doing better than 99% of the people who want to create. And guess what? 99% of people don't want to create. They just want to consume. Like your average person wants to go to work. Well, they don't want to go to work. And also, quit asking your kid. I understand that I'm getting like
we are so
branching
off the rails.
Right. But don't ask your kids what to be when they want to grow up, because who dreams of labor? I don't dream of labor. I want to make D&D with K and play video games. That's what I want to do with my life. But most people want to punch their clock, punch out, come home, drink a beer, eat dinner, watch TV, and go to bed. And then occasionally like take a four-wheeler or like a boat out on a weekend. Like that's what your average person wants to do. And so if you want to create and then you also finish the thing that you're working on, because we all know someone, and look, ADHD is a thing, but we all know someone who has like 80 different things that they've been interested in over the course of their lives, where they've sunk a bunch of money into it and put like 100 hours into it and then immediately lost interest when they're like halfway done with everything. Like go to a Ren fair and throw a rock and you will hit somebody who has a half-finished crocheted something in a drawer or a closet somewhere, okay? So if you get to the end, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. And I think Kay sent me a meme earlier this week where it's like, the end of a first draft, is this the worst thing that has ever been written? It's like, 1, no. 2, worst things that your first draft have been published and people bought. So it doesn't have to be good. We've all seen movies that sucked.
Are you telling me that Loverboy had it right? Is everybody, in fact, working for the weekend?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well done, Rex. But yes, back on track.
Yes.
Also, actually, before we get back on track, I'm just going to shout out because I had a friend invite me to be part of a really cool sci-fi audio drama, and I was just going to do some background voices, and they said, "Oh wait, do you want to be a cyborg?" And they're looking for a couple more mask voices, large and small parts, and then if you are happy doing small parts, can be femme as well. But if you want to be in an audio drama, shout me out. So, Alexia, playmaking of the cyborg. So yes, player agency is really the big issue behind railroading. Why players don't like railroading. Because look, if I have an idea in my head of how I want a scene or a plot to go, and I get to do that, I'm happy. It's when I don't want a story to go that way and I can't figure out how to make it not go that way that I get grumpy. I'm pausing to let David interject, but David is typing.
Yeah, like, listen, when it comes to, okay, so yeah, like, my original point of why people say that railroading is bad, which for the record it is not, is people are like, well, player agency. Well, for one, when I am GM, I am God and you do what I say. No, like there has to be, well, depending on what type of game you're playing. If you're playing at our table, there has to be an overarching plot. There has to be an individual plot for you, for your character, and they all have to weave together.
And somehow capitalism has to be the bad guy.
Oh yeah, capitalism always the villain. Like even when we try to make the villain something else, it's still capitalism. Like ooh-wee. I tried to make a villain where his villainy was racism, and it was still capitalism. But like I tell every table that I sit at where I GM, like, y'all all have to row in the same direction. You all have to be like, hey, I want to be here. Because if you sit there and go, oh man, my character doesn't want to do this. My character is sitting at the tavern and just wants to finish his beer and doesn't want to go on the adventure. Great. Give me your next character sheet. Tear up that one and delete it off of D&D Beyond and roll another character that actually wants to go on the adventure. I don't care if both of your parents are dead. I don't care if your parents got gunned down in Crime Alley. Like Bruce Wayne wants to put on the bat suit, okay?
Yeah. Matt says, but David, I'm a very special snowflake who's a loner and doesn't want friends. And Dungeon Mr. Ty makes the perfect, God, it even got quotes. The perfect summary, which is railroading can be less necessary if players follow the GM's beats up front. And look, that is, I watched a really cool YouTube video recently, and I might have to go find it again, about like planning multidimensionally for things in your game, which is really, really great and something that I need to talk to you about, David, because it's less necessary for the project we're working on. But he talks about like, okay, you've got there's a dungeon they're going to go investigate, and next to the dungeon is a town. And you expect them to go to the town and then the dungeon, but then they're like, why do I want to go to the town? Or it's like, all pressure, everyone we got to hit the dungeon. And they're like, no, we got to go to town first. And you're like, oh, but the stuff that's going to happen in town usually needs, he's like, come up with 3 or 4 different things that could be happening in that town. And that way, if they decide to go explore somewhere that you're not ready for in the plot, there's something else to be going on there. And I really like that idea.
And listen, I'm going to give you the 2 big secrets to TTRPG storytelling that I have used in almost every game that I have run. 1, have a community board or a message board or some central place where people can read off a list of quests for them to do and then let them choose which one they want to do. Here's the kicker though. Each and every one of those quests leads back to the original storyline, leads back to the big bad and what you want the overall thrust of your story to become. And 2, it's not just important for your players to have agency. All of your NPCs need to not just have well thought out and thriving lives. Like you have to picture your tavern keeper wrapping up at the end of the day, having a beer and going to bed. But they also have goals and dreams and machinations. Like if there's a guy, like a great example of it is in multiple of the games that I run, there's a woman that runs a tea shop. And when you go into the tea shop, I talk about random people who are in the tea shop. But what you don't know is each and every one of those random people in the tea shop is in there for a reason, and they have stuff going on. So if you completely derail the campaign, you're like, listen, I understand we have to go save the world and stuff, but the guy sitting in the corner drinking Earl Grey, the guy with the horseshoe hair and the red jumpsuit, the red and black jumpsuit, with like the little brooch right here, that guy's got some, and if you decide to just be like, nah, we're gonna go sit at the table, we're gonna talk this. I have an entire story about this guy because he's up to something. He's doing something, and it's probably shady. And the woman who runs a tea shop knows all about what the hell he's up to, and she's involved. Because they have a life outside of what your characters are doing. They have a life outside of what the big bad is doing. And they all have their own, and it's a lot of work. It is so much work, and it's so much stuff that people will never, ever, ever encounter. Like in Can My Home Game, which had over a year's worth of sessions, over 52 sessions. There are all sorts of storylines that over all of that time, nobody's ever like stumbled upon or like learned about, because why would they? However, it's all there, and it's all important to having a world that feels lived in. And so like, if you make sure all the tracks lead back to the main track, then it's all still railroading. It just doesn't feel that way because you let them choose which line to get on.
So, first off, welcome in, Lamia. And we talked about that before you got here, which is, David said, if you roll up and you're like, my character doesn't want to go on the adventure, I want to sit in the bar, I want to sit in the tavern and finish my beer, cool, roll me a new character sheet. Bring me a character who wants to be here. We're here to play this game. I'm not playing that game. You're locked in here with me. Bring me the character. Lurking Rider asked, is it still railroading if you're actively laying the tracks directly in front of the thing? Depends on who you ask. But again, what we're talking about is if everything you do leads back into this central point, like here's the thing. There is definitely an illusion of choice within TTRPGs. There's 3 doors, but there's 2 options to what's behind the door. There's the dead end door, and then the 2 other doors lead you to where you need to be. So you give the illusion of choice of like, you get to pick. Oh, you got lucky. You got where you need to be. There's a 2/3 chance that's what happened. But no, you opened the wrong door. That's the dead end. It was even, I'm gonna reference a couple things here. Minor spoilers for Cloudward Ho. If you're watching Dimension 20, they're in a chamber and there's these things that light up, and one of the players is like, I pick this color of the light and all this stuff happens, and it's a good thing. The thing Session ends, it's great. They're in the after party. They're talking over the adventure afterwards. And one of the other players goes, okay, Brennan, so what would have happened had he picked that other color? Brennan's like, I think everything went exactly as it should have. I think everything, and it's like, all roads were going to lead to Rome. In that moment, that illusion was shattered.
And one of the things that I spend a lot of time thinking about is whenever you come across a fantasy story or certain sci-fi stories, and most tabletop games, there's you find the ancient artifact, you find the Godslayer sword, you find the belt of lifting or whatever, or you go into a dungeon that has all of these traps, most of which unsprung, to protect the artifact at the end. And I always think of 3 things. 1, who made the doohickey? Like, who made it and how did they make it? 2, who made the dungeon? Like, who plotted out all these different like traps and shit? And how did they even get out alive if they set up all these traps? And 3, like, where does the old magic come from? And so like, there are all these things that have all this history that we never ever like talk about. They're always like, oh man, in ancient, like, there's always like some like demon or god or something that is like bound in in another dimension or in like an amulet and it's like who and they'll tell you who bound them, but they won't say how they figured out how to do the binding. They don't say like what like who made the amulet that they went into. Like they don't explore the history of these things. And so I always spend a lot of time thinking about that because like when somebody has like the armor of some god, it's like some person took a hammer and hit metal until it was armor shaped, and then somehow it got imbued with god stuff, and then they locked it in a chest in the back of a dungeon for like 1,000 years.
Yeah, so Dungeon Mr. Tai, and I don't think I've watched this far into this, so I'm a little bit off, but I'm also going to reference something else. It reminds me of when Laura and Marisha ignored the vote and flew down the tunnel behind the waterfall, and NPC just happened to be there. And like, yes, I remember there was a discussion on one of the after show discussions for Critical Role where Matt Mercer was talking about they were supposed to have a guest early in the Mighty Nine when they weren't supposed to go to Jorhas. And they were supposed to go back and work with this one general, and he had this person lined up to come and guest on Critical Role. He had his character made. It was all planned out. And they just went, nope, we're going down the tunnel. And Matt like throws I think a purple worm at them. And they're like, nope, we're still going down the tunnel. And he's like, had to call the guy. And he's like, so I tried for 2 sessions. They're not, I can't do, like, they went off the rail. Now, Matt obviously used Jorhas and got it all back to where it needed to be, got the information in through other NPCs. But like, and Matt's exact comment was, it's my job as a GM to respect when the players really start pushing against those boundaries. I set in, there's invisible video game walls, and in a video game, you'd hit up against that wall and you couldn't go down that tunnel anymore. But this is a TTRPG, and it is my job when someone is pushing against that wall that hard to go, okay, I have to honor this. And that is where, like, yes, Matt could have done a thing where, like, oops, there's been a cave-in, can't go any further. Like, he could have done stuff, but he went, no, they really want to follow this line of the adventure. And again, that's kind of where the difference in railroading is. Because, like, look, y'all, I'm going to tell you a little secret to those of you who have watched Godplane. There are some forced rolls in Godplane. There are a couple times where people roll a d20. Doesn't matter what that d20 is because we know which plane they're going to because that's what has to happen for the plot. But you keep it random enough the rest of the time where they don't feel like they've been railroaded. There is still that randomness. There is still that option. There's still that choice. And that's why you have to be reactive and listen to your players so that when you need to force that roll, so that when you need to really get the thing back on plot, back on point, you've given them enough freedom. When it's time to bring it back to where it needs to be, they don't feel like they're being choked and pulled and, I mean, maybe they like that, but they're not getting brought into things that they don't want to be part of. When the players are pushing up against invisible walls, you pull a Pac-Man and wrap them around to the other side of the story map, and you let them chase ghosts for a little while.
And that circles back to what the lurking writer said before. It's like there are times as a GM where you gotta lay track in front of you, like as the train is going. Mm-hmm. Like that's part of your job as a GM, because if you didn't have to do that, then yeah, it's like a video game. It's like, oh, you're out of bounds, so you either die or you get back in bounds. Mm-hmm. But part of the skill of being a GM is you lay that track to curve around back mm-hmm. to the track that you had.
Yeah. And I've referenced this a couple times on this show already, but it fits perfectly to this, which is, if you are... Every GM has had this happen. where you've got this NPC who's going to deliver the really good information, who's going to be a traveling companion, this really cool NPC who you can't wait to show off, and the players walk in, encounter that NPC, and go, uh-huh, tell me about the kobold over there.
Yep.
And as a good GM, then you have to go, okay, how can I take the information that this NPC was going to have and put it in the kobold's mouth? Or the other way, and I have talked about this so many times, is I love the concept of again, it's player agency. The reason players complain about railroading is they don't feel like they have freedom. They don't feel like they have agency. They don't feel like they get to pick things. Yes, Boblin the Goblin, every time. They feel like they don't get to pick things. And one of the best ways to get around that is to make sure you know what matters to your players and their characters. So again, if you're setting it, everyone's got to have 3 knives. Every character needs 3 knives, and they're not knives in the hand, there's knives in their back. So when I need you all to follow a thing, hey, loved one, welcome in. When I need the players to follow this lead, when this is an important thing, I know, I don't have to come up with a random NPC to stick in the bar and hope that they follow. Hey, rogue, you walk into the bar and sitting in the back, clearly making some shady deal, is your uncle who killed your parents. I know without a doubt they're going to go deal with that. And then I don't have to lay track down because I know they're going to go, that, yes, like Ratatouille, but with daggers. Exactly. It's also way different depending upon the game. A one-shot has rails. Oh, yes. One-shots are a different thing. Where an ongoing campaign is allowed to and should have more space and freedom. Exactly. Look, one-shots, you don't have time to go explore all that other fun stuff, right? We are all here to get some character interaction, to solve a puzzle, and to kill a big bad, right? We know there's certain things that we have to get done so that this feels satisfying to both players and audience at the end. So go do that.
Which is why one of the things that both Kay and I say is, it's like, listen, you could bring whatever character you want to this. Just don't expect us to go deep into the backstory because we're here for 3 hours. And an hour of that is going to be intro and outro. Like let's hit it. And that circles back to why railroading, even though it's a dirty word, is a good thing. Because another thing is modules. Like Kay and I have a whole library of games and modules that we want to run, in addition to like things that we're working on, in addition to modules I'm working on. And if you're playing Curse of Strahd, trying to launch into a whole romance with one of the villagers, like, you're there to dick Strahd's boots. And if you're not on a quest to find his boots and to do bad things to him, then maybe play something else. Because again, derailing the whole campaign to fall in love with this villager, or you're like, oh man, I'm just here to pick up a little side work so I can earn a couple of gold pieces. No, you're there to kill a vampire. So go kill him.
To be fair, I don't know. I know of one singular Curse of Strahd campaign that was not very heavily romance in some way or another.
Fair. But also, you kill the vampire at the end.
True.
And like, modules have storylines, and so you gotta we ran Skyhold Tower, and it's like, if you don't want to get to the top of that motherfucker, then maybe play something else.
That was, y'all, I tell the story of, and it was Skyhold Tower. It was the first time I encountered Skyhold Tower. It was my friend Kat, who's incredible, who was running one-shots. And she was running one-shots for mostly new players. And we're sitting in the bar, and one of the players is like, well, my character's a secret agent, a double agent, and she wouldn't want her identity revealed, so I don't want to go to the tower.
It's like, why are you here? Why'd you show up here?
Yes. Like, and that is, so there's, especially, this is why session zeros and communications are important, because there is a social contract of we are all going to show up and go for this together, right? We are all working towards this goal together. No question, right? For a one shot, it's even more narrow because we got 3 to 4 hours to land this plane. It's also why, again, part of the problem with like railroading in longer campaigns is people often feel like, oh, well, you know, it's Curse of Strahd and you're not letting me have some romance when I'm in the village. I want to do other things in the downtime, you know, or I want to do things that you are not letting me do. And often that is just a miscommunication over this is going to be gritty or not. You're going to have to track all of your ammo or not. This is going to be fun and fluffy or not. Weird Wilds War, when we were initially planning for it, there was a different one of the players was not in the original cast, and we had a different player who showed up to the session zero, and we're all talking about, you know, I've got like Brandon, you know, who's just like, I'm a weed dealer who got caught up in this, and I've got a dragon, right? We've got all these interesting, played serious but still kind of wild characters. And we had a player show up and go, my character is focused around grief and loss, and an exploration of grief is the entire point of this character. And we're like,
blink, blink, blink.
That
Hard
is
blink.
very, very not in alignment with what the rest of us are doing. And that's not to say that there aren't serious moments and hard decisions made in that game, but it's definitely like the game was pitched to us as like queer joy. So it was like, I'm over here going, I mean, let's go, but I hope everyone's going to be happy. And this other player kind of went, before we started, you know, I don't think I'm right for this table. And that's great and fine. If you're not right for a table or a game, or y'all know I don't like D6 systems. I'll play a D6 system for a one shot, but I can't play a D6 system that's a campaign. Well, rules light D6. Matt, looking at you, Matt, rules light D6 is not for me. I know that. And that's not me saying that this is bad. It's just not a thing I enjoy, and I am aware of that. So I make things more fun for myself and everyone else by just not doing it.
And circling back to what Kay said about knives, and specifically knowing what your players want and knowing what the characters want, it helps if you ask. It helps if you...
Don't be afraid to ask. Ugh.
It helps if you give them an opportunity to like demonstrate what they want. Because like in our home game, I made 2 pretty big mistakes. One is Kay's character, Roxy. I had the 2 most flamboyant and best, tailors in the land. Be like, oh, this is what we're going to put on. And Kay/Roxy was like, I ain't wearing that. Absolutely not. Why would you do this? And it later turned into, they made the whole thing. Roxy was like, and they went, okay, well, what do you want? And then Roxy was like, this is what I would be more comfortable in. And then they made that. Another thing is I cooked up an NPC that I thought a lady in the campaign would be into. Now, to be clear, not only have I no concept of flirting, but I also have no concept of what women want. And so I cooked up an NPC and I was like, oh yeah, ladies are going to be into him. He's going to be great. And when I tell you that she was so wholesale uninterested in this man, and I did like a hard right turn and just like turned him into like a total simp who was just like super into her, and it was totally unrequited and all that. But I was like, oh yeah, David, you got to keep in mind, you have no idea what make women tick. Not a single idea. And so, at multiple points for multiple characters, I was like, hey, you walk into this place, you see the most beautiful person you've ever seen. What do they look like? And then they tell you what their dream boat looks like. And
ask out of character.
Right.
Hey, you know, I want to surprise you. Right? I'm doing this thing with these tailors. I want to surprise you. What would this character want? Hey, do you even want a love interest? If you do, what would it be?
And like, not only does it keep you from making the same mistake that I did, not only does it add texture and depth to your game, but it also makes your players think more in depth about their character. Like, one of the first things that I'll have people do is I'll trot them all into the tea shop. Then they sit down, and I'm like, all right. The tea shop lady puts a plate in food in front of you, and it is not the best thing you've ever eaten, but it's something incredibly nostalgic from your childhood. What is it? And I have them tell me what they're eating, like what their character would be nostalgic for. And when I tell you that 98% of players have a hard pause where they're like, oh shit, I have to like think about this. I really got to like come up with something. And when I tell you, the one person who was like, well, my character grew up in, what's the Shadow Realm, the opposite of the Feywild? Shadowfell.
Shadowfell, yeah.
Yeah, my character grew up in the Shadowfell, so it would have just been like a plate of like black sludge, and they didn't really like care about food or like enjoy anything as a child. I'm like, okay, for one, you introduced me to the child that did not enjoy anything. And I mean fucking anything. Because the most screeching autistic person loves them mac and cheese and chicken nuggets. Okay? My writing partner, her kid is autistic. My writing partner is allergic to fowl. And when you open up her freezer, the first 2 bags that you see is 2 different types of chicken nuggets, because sometimes he wants to eat dinosaurs and sometimes he wants to eat chicken nuggets. Can she eat them? No. And the best part is her husband is vegetarian, so he can't eat them either. But it's like, don't tell me that you are a humanoid and you have like human adjacent experiences and live a life of adventure where part of adventuring is going and experiencing new places, new people, and new things. And not at no point in your life did you ever enjoy food. Like, come on now. Like, look, if you don't enjoy sex, we support you. We think you're cool. In fact, I'm a little jealous because you have so much more brain space to do things. But do not tell me that you never had a taco that rocked your fucking world. Do not tell me that you've never had a plate of pasta that made you rethink your life. Do not tell me you've never had cheesecake that made you want another piece.
Put you back on the rails.
Yes. Look.
Nope, focus.
Yes, but give your players, both above the table and in game, an opportunity to share, because again, it's collaborative storytelling. And like, they can help build the railroad. Like, one of the cool things that I haven't done, but okay.
Hot chicken Sammys are so good.
Here's the thing. I'm not talking about Zykram's character because, and I don't mean to like air your business, but you started this. Zykram's character sits down. Dude panics. He's like, oh shit, I have to think about this, which everybody does, which is good. That's the point, is you're supposed to think about your character. And he's like, yo, I'm from a place where like food wasn't good. And so like, it was just like meat and potatoes on a plate. And like, yeah, it's not the best, but it reminds me of home. And I'm like, great, excellent, fantastic. And like, same thing with Burton. And I'm not gonna like reveal what Burton ate, but like
You can.
Burton was like, oh man, I ate like, the plate in front of Burton was this really terrible bare bones fish stew because Burton grew up poor, and to supplement their diet, they went down to the river, caught fish, threw it in a bowl, or threw it in a pot with water, and boiled it, and then ate it. And it's not the best. It's not, and you know what? I'd argue that every single person has a nostalgic meal from their childhood that is some shitty, no good food.
Look,
like it's
we're
like
gonna talk about Kraft mac and cheese with hot dogs. We're
right.
gonna talk about just had a talk with Jago, one of my British really good friends, about beans on toast. Right? Like there is comfort food, right. There is comfort poverty food that we all go, something about this makes me happy. I know it's not good for me.
Right. Like some of y'all ate Vienna sausages straight out of the can. Some of y'all ate corned beef hash straight out of the can. Some of us had Kool-Aid with too much sugar in it. Like this is not what you would get if Gordon Ramsay was in your house cooking. Yep. However,
going back on focus.
Yes. However, Gordon Ramsay makes a fucking a chippy buddy, which is literally a potato sandwich. Anyway. British food makes me so mad.
Focus. I know. We got to get back. I'm railroading you back on the rails, my dude.
Right. But again, a thing that I personally haven't done, but I have seen executed really well, is when the GM approaches a player and is like, hey, how would you like to work for the big bad? How would you like to like betray the party and be the villain?
I need y'all to know, David, this makes no sense to you. I need y'all to know, I did not have my stylus in hand. My hands were nowhere near my tablet, and Zoom just decided that I'd raise my hand. And that's why we switched places. Continue, David.
But like adding that subterfuge to your party and giving a player, especially a player that you know would be into it, the chance to do something dastardly. Or if you have an all evil party, be like, hey, do you want a face turn? Do you want to then be a good guy? Do you want to side with the powers of good? Like all these things contribute to the depth and complexity and the interestingness of your story, of your game. And it's better for everybody. So ask your players. Have your players help you lay down the track.
And again, this is spoilers for season 3 of Emergency Power Podcast, which y'all, we're editing the final after show stuff. And season 4 of Emergency Power Podcast is going to come out real soon, and I can't wait to announce it real soon. I'm so excited. But in season 3, a thing happened where we had NPCs that we needed to put somewhere safe, and the GM kind of really was leaving it up to us. And one of the players said, or one of the characters said, well, what if Soul has contacts? What if we leave them with one of their contacts? And in the middle of the game, GM and I are like, and I'm like, let me think on it. Hold on. Let me see where we are and what's around. Right? So after the session, the GM reaches out to me and is all like, hey, Kay, what do you have in mind? I think this is a great idea. What NPC can I build? What things from your backstory do you want to incorporate? And I'm like, could go one of two ways. And I got the coolest freaking NPC custom built for me, who is a perfect narrative foil. And if y'all know me, narrative foils are my weakness. Perfect narrative foil that would never have come up had the GM not gone. Because the GM could have just gone, oh yeah, Soul, here's a contact. Go to them. But we got to sit down and go back and forth about like what would be cool. And this NPC means so much to me because I love them so much. So again, ask big and small. And the more, like, that's the perfect example of one of the problems with railroading, one of the problems with players not being invested is they don't feel like they are helping shape the world. They don't feel like they're doing these things. And when you let them shape the world, when you let them have their thumbprint on this, they get more invested. Because this is a thing they want. This is a thing they help build. Narrative eeps and sabers. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask. I know. Okay. Anything else you want to add on this, David, before I mention I derail into? Okay. So as we were advertising this, as we were on the blue skies, going, we're gonna be here. We're gonna be talking about this. Someone replied and was like, I really hope you will talk about when GMs are accused of railroading. And found that interesting, right? That's a very interesting, when a GM is accused of railroading when you actually had, and the things that they brought up are like, accused of railroading because A, the players didn't pick up on the plot hooks, and B, the players had agreed in advance that this is the thing they wanted to follow. So we're going to pick those two things apart, and we're going to talk about those. And I specifically, before this stream, went and pulled up a quote from one of my favorite shows, The Good Place. If you haven't watched The Good Place, please go watch The Good Place. Oh, that's because I can't find the quote because that was my message with someone else. There's a great moment in The Good Place, and I won't say what and who because that's a little bit of a spoiler, but one of the characters is like, your plan saved us. We got all 4 clues you left. And the other person's like, well, actually, I left 1,200 clues, but because of how tiny your brains are, but I'm glad you got those 4. I'm glad you got those 4, got enough to figure it out. I'm really glad. That's what you have to do as a GM.
Mm-hmm.
There have to be plots and clues. You have to have neon signs pointing everywhere because players don't always pick up on it. And David, I've been a player at several of your tables. Matt, I've been a player at your table a couple times. I've been lucky enough to be. Lurking Rider, you've watched me do a couple things. I like to think that I'm pretty freaking good at picking up on plot points. I'm pretty good at looking at what's going on in the world to the point where my infamous story, I got annoyed that other people at the table at a home game weren't paying attention. And I took, here's the plot clues, here's the plot hooks that we've had. I'm going to twist those clues and make it sound like we just need to travel way off the map. And everyone went, yeah, sure, that sounds, yeah. Okay, yeah. Kay pays attention to these things. Yeah, that sounds right. Much to David's, Kay runs around the maps looking for button, presses it, and sometimes provides a solution right then and there. I think I'm pretty good at picking up what we're supposed to do, where we're supposed to be. I like to think that I'm a pretty cooperative player and that if I think I know where the story's trying to go, I will help the GM get us there, unless I'm just straight up being a troll, which occasionally I am. I am in a game, which it's on hiatus right now. We finished an arc. It's one of my favorite GMs I've ever played with. And I'm about to have to sit down with him and go like, okay, I think you need to give us a few more hints. Because at 2 separate points in the last, little bit of the game, he'd said something like, yeah, well, now that you've committed to this road. And I'm like, there's another road. There's another option. There was another thing we could have done, because I didn't see it. And then at another point, and David heard that, because I was like, what? We get to a point, and there's this thing where it's like, it was very clearly, one of you gets in the box, and you save everyone else. And like the GM specifically like walked us over to the box. There were bad guys that we couldn't seem to kill outside, walks us to the box and is like, this is your save everyone and the whole world right now thing. And none of us wanted to get in the box because we all like our characters, right? And we just had another player character death. Like, a lot had been going on. And he eventually had to just make it very clear, like, no, you're supposed to walk back out and fight those guys who've been kicking your ass. You can do it now. And again, I like to think I'm pretty observant. I'm pretty creative, I think, when I'm backed in a corner. David can correct me.
Absolutely.
But if I can't pick that up from one of my favorite GMs ever, maybe don't be afraid to make some other options visible. I was watching a game my friends were doing and became a lore keeper because I guessed the majority of the plot. Yeah, I absolutely derailed one of poor Matt's games because I went, well, if my android, if that android has the same startup sequence saying that my android does, that means either I was copied or I'm not the original. And Matt was like, I gotta go to break. Hold on. Like, oops, sorry, that felt good. So again, don't be afraid to above the table. Be like, okay, just so we're clear, y'all are looking at this. Other options include, I'm not saying if they're good or bad, but here's some other things you could do. Trust your players. Because by and large, now, I'm not talking about the one. We're not talking about the Karen of TTRPGs, right? But by and large, your players want to help you tell this story. By and large, your players want cool moments. Your players don't want to be wandering around blind, trying to figure out what am I supposed to do. It's not fun.
And one, it's okay to be heavy-handed in the clues that you leave. Like, because guess what? If they're investigating a murder, there's going to be blood at the scene. Like, it's okay if there's blood splatter on the wall. Like, that doesn't mean that you're not imaginative in your storytelling. If there are footprints leading away from the crime scene, like, that's okay. Also, if your players or if people who are watching guess your story, that's a good thing for a couple of reasons. One, you want the characters to be able to divine what is going on so that they can put a stop to your big head.
It makes your players feel so smart.
And it means that your players are paying attention. And it means that your story isn't that your story isn't so convoluted and complicated that only Sherlock Holmes himself and his boy wife Watson could crack the case. Like, you know, if orphans are going missing, then have the adorable urchin that your players interact with go missing, and then have the first shopkeeper that they meet going, hey, so-and-so hasn't tried to steal an apple from my cart today. That's weird. And then have like the next temple that you go to, well, so-and-so didn't come back last night. Like just hit them over the head with it. Because eventually they'll go, I don't know, maybe we should look into that. It's like, yes.
Mrs. Hudson never does get the credit she deserves.
Oh, man.
We love us, Mrs. Hudson.
I have a whole Sherlock Holmes rant that I'm not going to go on. You're welcome.
Thank you. Did I tell you I went to the Sherlock Holmes Museum while I was in the UK?
No.
I'll send you pictures.
Yo.
It's not the real 221B Baker Street because there is no 221B Baker Street.
Right.
But there is a cute little museum there.
Yo, that's cool. A piece of deep David lore. In 7th grade, David checked out the collected works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and read the whole fucking thing in a week.
And
Anyway,
it's actually, I had a game director at a studio I worked at who was British and hated Sherlock Holmes. Hated Sherlock Holmes. And it's like, why? And he's like, because it's not fair to the reader. The reader is not given enough information to be able to figure it out. And while I understand that complaint, I do still defend the books because Sherlock is supposed to be brilliant and the reader is not supposed to figure it out. That's not true for TTRPGs. So that complaint is valid in this context.
and also, if you've read a shitty detective novel, then one of two things happen. Either there's an enormous piece of evidence that is kept from the reader that the character has and holds on to and reveals at the end, or the killer comes after the detective, and so all of their detection doesn't matter because they caught the guy because he tried to kill him. The end.
So that is like, players didn't pick up on it. If players aren't picking up on it, beat them over the head with it. Come up with another way to deliver the information. Make sure that road is leading back to where you want it to be, because now we need a Sherlock Holmes stream, you realize. I need to bring on my friend Alicia. Who's
Yeah.
the biggest Sherlock Holmes nerd that we know. And Alicia, this is fun. Alicia has played TTRPGs twice in her life, both with David as her GM, and discovered why she doesn't like TTRPGs after my birthday session. She was one of the players in my birthday session. And she was, I don't like that I have to ask permission and then roll to see if my character does the thing I want them to do. She's a writer. Makes sense.
Yep. That would do
right?
it.
But no, it would be fun to come on and have that conversation of from writer Sherlock Holmes versus TTRPGs. We'll think about that.
And when we were talking about the topic before we got on, I was sitting here and I was thinking, I was like, okay, have I ever had like a table just not pick up the plot points that I was putting down? And the answer is I'm fortunate enough where I haven't had that happen.
I mean, you did once, and I derailed so hard that you had to.
Right. Yeah. Well,
I had picked up. I was just being a jerk.
I was scrambling to build an entire new town, to plot out a 2-week journey. Like, it was going to be like a 5 or 6 session big old detour away from the thing. There was a whole lot going on.
I was not actually going to let it go that far. Just me.
But I was. There was a moment of panic where I was like, oh my God, I have to do this. I have to plan basically a whole new campaign, like a whole 6-week session to do this. Hard panic.
And also, that's another of like, David does a great thing. And my GM for the home game does this too. Only he does it evil mode. We'll sit down to start playing, and David's like, okay, what happened last time? Right? Tell me. The GM for the home game is evil and enjoys watching people squirm. And so he's all like, 2 minutes or less. If you do this, you get a drive, or a void, which is a resource. He's like, 2 minutes or less has to be accurate to my approval. Go. Starts timer.
Yikes. Because look, and I always word it very carefully. I always say, what do you remember happening last session? Because there have been games where everybody sits at the table and then somebody starts spouting off some bullshit that absolutely did not happen last session. And then everybody goes, oh yeah, it happened like that. I was like, well, now it happened like that. The end. Because why am I gonna correct them, especially if it's not something that's gonna like derail everything or cause a whole lot of extra work? It's like, we're here to have a good time and we're here to tell a story, and the story is what we agree on, and that's what they agreed on, so that's what we're doing.
Well, and it's also totally fine as a GM. Yeah, that's the thing. I kind of ruined that for the GM by taking like 20 pages of notes per session and then sharing them with the entire group.
Yep.
Oopsie
Yep. And
poopsie.
and now there's a whole obsidian.
Yeah, it's he's also, I mean, he's also building a TTRPG. This is the GM who's doing Slaughter Night. So if you're Gen Con, go to the first play thing. Ha 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 ha. Go to the
Plug.
first play exposure test hall and go check out Slaughter Night because he's one of the best GMs I've ever played with. Period. But he's also building, he works for Modifius. He's been the lead writer for TTRPGs for multiple years and is building his own world and setting based off of the game that we're playing in. Hey, Merm, welcome. Good to see you. So that was part of the reason that the note taking was extra good, because now he could just reference all the things that happened because this is part of his timeline. But back on topic, we are focusing. Don't be afraid to, after a session, go like, are y'all clear on what's happening? Are you clear on, like, I'm not gonna promise that I'll tell you everything, but above the table, is there something you're not clear on? Because that is generally why people feel frustrated with railroading, is it's all like, I don't know what I can do. I feel like I have to do this. This isn't necessarily what I want to do. Players need to understand their options.
And one of the reasons that I don't have a whole lot of experience with people not picking up my plot points is two reasons. One, I try to be very obvious. Like, I do the classic, you walk into a tavern and there are like 3 construction workers at a table, and there's a kobold carrying drinks. And then there's a guy in the back wearing a cloak with a scar and a big fancy bracelet and an insignia that you recognize, paying for his drinks with coins from a country that's not this one, but you know what country that's from. And the dagger you recognize from this other secret society. So who do you want to talk to?
Kobold.
But I'm also right, and I'm also prepared for you to be like, all right, kobold. And I'm like, all right, well, Jerry has a story to tell you. He comes from the mines that you were going to go to anyway, and he has a cousin that was there that's crying right now, and he feels very bad about it, but he can't take off of work because he has to pay his medical bills because capitalism is the villain.
Always.
But crap, I forgot. So there was another reason that I don't have the plot things.
Huh?
Like, one, I'm very obvious.
Two, you've got me, and I'm obnoxious.
Also, Kay is the quintessential note taker, to the point whereby we've had a game that's on hiatus for years now at this point, that's firing back up, and I've already booked time with Kay to be like, all right, we got to spend an hour going over your notes.
I'm trying to find these notes because I need people to see me. Keep talking, David. Keep talking.
Yeah, look, I've been very good about holding on to my points, even as our conversation diverges and goes, quote unquote, off of the rails.
Y'all, this game has been on hiatus for so long that my notes have degraded.
Mm-hmm.
The ink is dying. Now I have to go read those notes again.
Yep.
But while you think of that, I'm going to talk about the last point that was brought up, which was like, what do you do when players accuse you of did you figure it out?
Yeah. The other thing that I have, and this is a storytelling tip that you can take or leave, but I find very helpful, is I always have an NPC that either knows everything or at least knows way more than the characters know.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always someone where the players can go, all right, look, we're stuck. We don't know. We don't understand. Let's go ask so-and-so, because they'll be able to point us in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And then that NPC will go, all right, look, I don't usually say this, but it's time for you to go to the mines of Moria because there's an ancient artifact that I specifically left there in case you ever needed it to punch this dragon in the face. Like I left a dragon punching brass knuckles in the mines specifically for punching dragons. So maybe go get them and then go punch the dragon.
These notes are so old. I wrote them here in LA, then moved to New York, and I'm not going to be taking any more. I took no notes until I was back in LA. Yes. So the other part of the comment that came up was, what do you do as a GM if you're accused of railroading when it's a plot point that your characters have already agreed on? Okay. This is a little bit layered. And it all comes back to the thing we're always freaking harping on and that we talked about earlier, which is communication. Because look, I don't think I'm going to surprise maybe a couple people in this chat. I think most of y'all know I'm not a big fan of kids. Kay the person, I'm not going to go out of my way to be mean to kids. I raise money for charities for kids. I donate books for kids every year. Kids are our future. Someone needs
to keep them away from us
to read.
Because they're sticky.
Yes, I have no desire to interact with a child ever. So grateful for people who educate, who raise, who teach them to be good people, right? It's just not going to be me. I will support you in that effort, but I don't want to interact with your kid. Those of you who have listened to the Emergency Power podcast, my character, Soul, is all about this teenager. All I want to do is protect this one kid. And had you told me that was going to be the case when we started the game, I would have been like, pfft. But Adam set it up, so it felt like it was my character's idea. And beyond that, it wouldn't have happened had things in the game itself not pushed my character to do that. Oh, hi, Gilmore. So all of that to say, you can agree this is where I want my character to go at the start of a game. And that might not be true 3 months, 6 months, a year into the game. I've definitely had, like, those of you watching Weird Wild's War, within the span of one episode, Brandon went, "We're meeting nature magic people. I can't wait to meet nature magic people. This is great. I want to know other problems. Oh, this is bad. I want nothing to do with these people. Let me out." Within the span of one episode. So how much can change over the span of events happening months and years? Oh, hi. Oh, come on. Come say hi. Everyone would love to see you. No, he wants to scratch. So that might be the case of, yes, this was agreed upon, but the character has changed and grown over the course of the campaign. So that thing that you feel like you are facilitating, you are now pushing the player into because it was agreed upon. When, as we all know, consent can be revoked at any time. Come on. Give it to me. I want it. Come on. Okay, let me adjust your perch so everyone can see you being so handsome and dapper. The other reason that might happen is, again, your vision of how that should turn out and the player vision of how that should work out is not always the same. You know, when we were in the Star Wars game, you know, I had talked to the GM and been like, Bella is not a character who wants to interact with the Force. This is not a character that would ever want to use a lightsaber. The GM and I had discussed about like, okay, maybe she can get there, right? I'm like, but give me time, right? Let her get a feel for this. And the GM's idea of let's give time was like an episode. It was like, well, this has to happen on a schedule. I'd been very clear about don't want the lightsaber. Well, it was like, well, it has to happen at this point. So you got the lightsaber and then you could deal with it later. And that ended up being the thing that just made Bella go, no, none of this. Nope.com. And Jim and I had a really great conversation after, and we worked it out and it became great. But like, again, that was a little bit of the like, my understanding of give time and your understanding of give time were not the same. And again, great GM who went, I understand the miscommunication, let's fix it. That's the sign of a great GM, y'all. That is the best thing that you can have happen is something happened with the GM, something happened in game that didn't feel good. GM goes, got it, let's fix it. Because even the best GM is going to mess up on occasion.
Yep. And something else that I've executed in games before, but as I sit here thinking about it, I'm not sure I've seen, but I think is important, is give your characters an offer or a path that is their ideological opposite. Give them something to say no to. And like be clear to the player. Be like at one point, we're playing a game and I'm like role playing and typing at the same time, being like, hey, this is specifically set up for your character to be like, no, fuck this guy, fuck everything that he wrote in on, like you fuck his whole bloodline, he's wrong, the end. And then going, well, this person who you thought was a good person, who's actually a bad person, is now asking you to a bad thing, like asking you to steal bread from an orphan's mouth in exchange for gold, because he thinks that gold is like your primary motivator, because again, capitalism is the villain. And you're supposed to be like, no, I defend orphans. Like I've hunted 3 guys that killed orphans. Why would I take there's a character in one of our games that made a whole ass meal for orphans, and then the whole party went and got chocolate, very expensive chocolate, and then distributed that to the orphans and basically recruited all of the orphans into their little orphan army.
That chocolatier was so angry that we were giving it to orphans.
Yep. Furious.
So angry. It's great.
Because he was a capitalist bastard. No. And so now I've got to like game plan for orphans that are wandering around with knives stabbing people. And also they're spies now.
It's our Baker Street regulars. It's our little orphan army.
Yep. Absolutely.
All comes back to Sherlock this episode.
Right? Which I was not expecting, but it happened. But yeah, like give your characters something and someone to push back against ideologically. Speak of the devil.
We're always talking about you, Kato.
The way this man went and bought knives and put them into the hands of children. It was like, if you see bad person, stab them. And they were like,
you gave me chocolate and a knife. I'll do whatever you tell me to.
Right. But yeah, like it's one of the ways that, because in storytelling, there's the concept of kick the dog, save the cat. Like, and you know, like we're not an anti-dog channel, but we don't like dogs here.
David does.
So, I mean, I like most dogs. look, if you have like a little yappy chihuahua, anyway, that's a whole different thing. But the idea is, regardless of how good appearing your villain is, they're going to have a moment where they kick the dog, and regardless how. And regardless of how like evil your anti-hero is, they're going to save the cat. There's going to be a moment where you're like, where it reveals, oh, deep down, this is a good person. Which is why, like, even though Wolverine is a gigantic asshole, terrible jerk, he also bends over backwards to save Jubilee no matter what trouble Jubilee gets herself into. And like, you know, no matter how right Lex Luthor may be, and I haven't seen the Superman movie yet, so don't fucking come for me. But again, if you have somebody with superpowers in a world where no one else has superpowers and he's unkillable, it's real easy to be like, what if he just decided to one day not? Maybe we should like do something about that. Maybe we should be prepared. Like in that very slim, specific regard, Lex Luthor is right. Now, Lex Luthor's obsession with Superman is a whole different thing. Like just invite him to the penthouse suite and get down, because we know that's what you want. You literally made a baby with your DNA and his DNA. Do not tell me you do not want Clark Kent inside of you. But
not Clark Kent, Superman.
Fair. Which is, look, I have a whole rant about Superman and Clark Kent.
I know.
Anyway, but again, like part of like one of the ways you can kick the cat, or no, one of the ways you could kick the dog, and give your players the opportunity to save the cat, to show that they are good, or give them an opportunity to become dog kickers, is to have your big bad, or like a lieutenant of the big bad, or just like some evil bandit dude be like, hey, here's an opportunity to do something shitty, or here's an opportunity to do something good. Do you take it, or do you do? And this also circles back to something Kay and I have spoken a lot about, which is alignment in D&D specifically, and how we don't really like alignment because there are too many people who are like, oh man, I want to play a paladin. Okay, well, you're stuck being lawful good. And they're like, okay, I robbed the shopkeeper. And it's like, that is neither lawful nor good. So alignment change, broken oath, or you want to rethink mugging the shopkeeper? But yeah,
yes,
like give right, and again, just like give your players opportunities to make decisions that shape their characters and shape the story that you are telling.
And the final bit I'm gonna say, and got a whole episode coming up on this. It's brewing. I'm noodling. It's going on. But let your players, even if the characters don't know, let your players have some understanding of what consequences might be. Because yes, there are fun and super powerful moments of high pressure. You know, here are two bad options. You got to pick right now. What's it going to be? Go, right? Though there are those moments, and they are powerful and they are good, but if every moment is no idea what the consequences are going to be, if every decision is right, figure it out right now. Can I? No, nope. You don't get to know. You don't get to ask questions. Pick right now. Then even though the players do make a choice, it still feels like railroading, because you don't know what the outcomes are. And sometimes it's obvious, right? Are you going to stab the orphan or not? Yeah, fairly obvious if that's going to be a good or a bad decision. But, you know, sometimes, especially when it comes to if it's help me, David, more, not courtly, political, more political games, more games where a
Where
lot of
intrigue is more focused.
intrigue. Thank you, especially if it's like intrigue. Like, yeah, I know that I have to help one shady character or the other. As a GM, you probably have a better understanding of the reputations and of these people, how it's going to ripple out, what all. Players don't necessarily know that. So give them, hey, and I would even go so far as to say, don't be afraid to go above the table and be like, hey, I know I'm giving you this choice. Okay. Option A is going to be much less dangerous to you all. It's going to help your reputation. It's fine. Option B is going to be far more dangerous, but it's going to give you a lot more interesting options. It's going to open up a lot more things. If you go this route, then that's you have an understanding that that's going to align you with this Thieves Guild. If you go this route, it's going to align you with this group of people and put you at odds with this group of people. Help people understand what the consequences of their actions and their choices are going to be. And it feels way less like railroading. Now, David, you have to talk because I have to catch up on chat that you've just been blowing up with folks.
Lurking Writer says session 01, you wake up in a jail cell. Fun fact.
I've played that game.
Back in the day, when character creation took way longer because it wasn't digital, and like, we can talk about Roll20 and its limitations. We can talk about D&D Beyond and its limitations. However, the two biggest advantages are, one, the ability to access your character as long as you have an internet connection. Great. Because I definitely had a game where one of my players was like, look, if I keep my character sheet, I'm going to lose it. And then the next session, I'm going to show up and not have it, and you're going to be mad at me. And I was like, cool, give it to me, and I will hold on to it. And then I carried his set.
Turtloo, thank you so much for the subscription. We appreciate you. Continue,
Oh,
David.
thank you. And the other advantage is the streamlined character creation, where it's literally like click, 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 next, click, 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 next, 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 numbers, next, you're done. Because I invented an entire zero session game that we can play while you make your characters, where it's literally, you are a level 0 peasant, all your stats are 9, so everything rolls at a -1. You only need a d20 because a wizard's going to give you a wand of magic missile, and magic missile just hits. For those of you who don't know the iconic magic missile, it's not roll to attack, it's not spell save. It does 1d4 plus 3 times 3, the end, full stop. However, I don't remember where I got it from, and I desperately want to credit whoever compiled it, but out there's a list of 10,000 wild magic effects. And so you just have them roll a d20 twice, and you get a number, and then you look it up on the table. And if it's something like, the heat death of the universe happens suddenly, you could be like, well, game's over. Or if it's like, everybody turns into a kobold, you could be like, everybody you see all of a sudden is a lizard. But if it's something like your character develops resistance to cold, you'd be like, well, something happened. And if it's everyone in a 3-mile radius develops resistance to cold, you could be like, well, something definitely happened. And so it adds a lot of intrigue and a lot of chaos into a game. And again, all you need is a d20, and you don't have to pay a whole lot of attention because you're just breaking out of a jail cell. So like, there isn't a whole lot of role playing. It's just like, you woke up in a jail cell. A wizard is like, hey, we're busted out of here. Grab these wands, go. And then you throw a couple of like level 1 guards at them, where 1 or 2 wand blasts will take them out. And you have a way to both play a TTRPG and keep your players interested while they're asking you questions about like, okay, So we're level 4. That means I get a feat. But what's a feat? And what sort of feat would be great for a ranger? It's like, for one, you've made a mistake playing a ranger. For two, this is what a feat is, and these are the feats that you have available to you.
Lizard folk with cold resistance, just high energy all the time. I outraged Adam, my Starfinder GM, because in Starfinder, I don't know if it's true for the new for 2E, but in 1E, I was playing a tiefling. And tieflings have resistance to fire, cold, and energy. He was so mad that I had cold resistance. Just so mad that I had cold resistance. The look of outrage on their face was yeah, started a game with "You are falling." You know, air.
And it's important to look over your characters' sheets, not only to see if they're like to have a general idea. And for a long time, and I don't do this anymore, but if you were a new player, I'd be like, listen, all the spell casting classes forbidden to you. Just play a martial, because that meant that I had to keep track of their spell slots in addition to all the other things I was keeping track of, because new players are notoriously bad at keeping track of their spell slots. It's like, this is the 6th fireball you've cast. Like, what's happening here?
Like, don't play a druid as your first one. Wild shaping is not.
Yeah.
It's not for new players. It's not as fun as you think.
And now I'm better about it. But it is gone. Whatever I was talking about, completely gone.
So it is time for us to kind of wrap up a little bit. So, like, in final thoughts, yeah, a lot of the problems with railroading come down to player autonomy and just not feeling like they have options, information, choices. And so much of it is just resolved by communication. Again, I had been playing a game for more than 2 years. I had my character real solid. I understood. And one day the DM just slides into my DMs and is like, hey, just wanting to check. What do you want to explore with this character? Are we still on? Like, we had this, we've ticked these boxes. What else are you wanting to explore? And I'm like, oh. Well, this is kind of what I see. And he was like, great. We're on the same page. Awesome. And then fucked off. And then it was only a couple months later, came to realize there were some of the game mechanics were a little unbalanced. He very clearly wanted to do some adjustments on some things with my character, and I wanted to adjust some other things with my character. So I slid into his DMs and was like, hey, I hear we're probably going to need to do some adjustments, and that's cool. No problem there. But can we look at maybe doing not just the adjustment on this, but all these other things? Because my character had like these 3 things that kind of made them unique. And now there's a couple other characters who are doing those things at a far less of a cost or passively. Can we adjust not just this bit, but like all of it? And GM was like, yeah, let's talk. And it ended up being, okay, my magic user, like I ended up proposing it, a thing I would never have been cool with when we talked last time of like, hey, what are your goals for this character? Just a couple months ago, I said, hey, being a magic user has defined this character their entire life. What if they lost their magic? And GM went, yep, that can happen. Let me think on all the things that could mean. And oh my gosh, I get to explore that. I get to have just this radical change for this character that until a week before we had that discussion, I would not at all have been down for. Hey, Jason, we are wrapping up. We are concluding. I am talking until David is back so we can do our outros. But welcome. Thank you for joining us. So yes, so much of the problems of railroading come down to a lack of communication or a miscommunication or goals of the characters that have shifted. In the home game that David and I played, where I played Kenley, the Himbo Bard, Kenley didn't know anything about their ancestry, didn't really have an interest. until they met someone who was odd and kind of unplaceable like Kinley was. And suddenly I'm messaging Stephanie, talking about Kinley, David, your favorite.
Oh,
I'm messaging our GM going, hey, Kinley suddenly cares. Hasn't cared until this moment. Kinley suddenly cares. Also, we're in the Fey realm now. I'm not saying we have to. But if there's the right Archfey, I could go Bardlock. GM's like, yes, Bardlock. Never got to explore that because the game, fell apart as it does. But so much of this can be resolved, can be handled, no longer becomes an issue if you just talk. And don't be afraid to talk about the table. And y'all, as a GM, it is not your job to constantly be surprising your players. It is so much more work for you with so fewer returns. Like I've said several times, I get most excited when something that I have collaborated with or something I have written is brought into the world. I remember the first game we played in Pathfinder 1E with Dane. When we go into this grove and it's the druids that I was playing. Don't play a druid as your first character. It's really bad. And a bunch of them have horns and weird animal horns that don't seem to match up with their age or size. And everyone else is like, what is this? This is weird. And I'm like, I know this because I wrote this. This is for me. You get the best out of your players when you let them build part of the world. And again, don't be afraid to ask, are we still on the same page? Is this still what you want? What do you want to explore? Is this still a thing you're interested in? Your life is going to be so much better. David, final thoughts before I keep talking.
Yeah, again, when it comes to railroading, one, railroading can be a good thing, and in many cases is necessary. And two, if you're going to do it right. Don't browbeat your players. And also be obvious, be overt. And then remember, it is collaborative storytelling. I have a player in one of my games where I was like, all right, give me some backstory. And they told me a couple of things and I was like, that's fine, but give me more. And then about a week goes by, I don't hear anything. And then my DMs blow up. And not only do they send me a family tree, but they tell me about all of the different relationships they have. And guess what? The fearsome aunt in that family tree showed up in the game. They were like, I reckon, oh yeah, yeah.
Player didn't have the camera on in that moment, and I could hear the terror in their voice. Oh no, not that one.
And for extra points, take your friends' characters that they're not playing and stick them in your game. Because that's a good time. Because apparently it's hilarious watching you try to roleplay a one of your friends' characters.
Very entertaining.
Especially when they are completely different from your personality. Completely different.
And then as a GM, you get to lean on your players when people are asking questions like, what does this person look like? What is this? And you can be like, so here, the GM gets to sit back and the player's like, Matt, I got to see David do a win. Win is a plant person Kai. I got to see David
you got to say the whole name. Because if I had to say the whole name, Welsh is bullshit, y'all. Anyway, continue.
When we thin, it's got 2 D's in it. And that entire word means vine.
Right? It's what are all these extra letters and syllables for?
Great.
When you're talking about a vine.
It's for joy. It is for pure joy. Okay. And with that, I think that about wraps it up. David, who the heck is you, and what the heck has we been doing here?
I am hilariously entertained by every time Gilmore does a trick, because he's like, how dare you ask me to perform in my own house? But no, I'm David. This has been and will be again next Tuesday, the Chaotic Wholesome Tuesday Table Talk Show, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to railroad your players so that they enjoy it, so that they like it, so that they take it. No.
How to keep David
how to
on
be
the
a better
rails.
right, how to be a better player person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
I'm Kay, been your other host. This is Gilmore. He knows his name, and he's very grumpy that he's not getting treats right now, even though it's 10 minutes until treat time. As a reminder, please, y'all, come on back here on Thursday. We will be playing Thirsty Sword Lesbians, The Quest for the Holy Tale. Look at this amazing cast. Robin, Candace the Magnificent, Kai, Zach, Calamity, and Kappa. It's going to be a good time. It will be supporting the DOTS Project, which are TTRPG Braille dice for the visually impaired, because inclusivity and accessibility is incredibly important. And a reminder to those of you going to Gen Con, please go, if you like 90s slashers, go to the first Exposure Playtest Hall. Say hello to Ben, one of my top GMs I have ever played with. Great human being. Go check out his semi-cooperative board game where you play as a killer from a 90s slasher and you have to try and take out 4 teenagers, and do so with style, because the most flare points, just like in a movie, decides who wins. So go say hi to the Resurrectionist Gaming folks and my favorite GM. Yes, brave Sir Robin ran away, bravely ran a game. All right. As always, thank you, chat. You have been wonderful. Matt, thank you for being the first here. Turtleloo, thank you so much for the subscription with Prime. Thank you, everyone, for coming and hanging out and making us laugh and derailing us and keeping David busy in chat. So we somewhat get on point and also get incredibly derailed. And now we found a new thing. We've got Centaur, Star Trek, and now Sherlock Holmes. So, our list of derails continues. But with that, we are going to run away. We're going to find someone to raid. Thank you, as always, for hanging out. It was lovely to see you all. You always make my Tuesday better. Be kind to yourself, be excellent to others, and we will see you next time.